Hey, I'm Cody Sharp. So I'm the owner of Sharp Guys Web Design, and as a web design company, we get asked a lot of times, like, what should we use when it comes to a CMS? So content management system. It can be a number of different systems. Look, I have used WordPress for over a decade, but before that, I used to code websites in HTML. It was awful. It was horrible compared to what we have now. Nowadays, like WordPress allows for a lot of page builders. It makes it easy. It's a drag and drop process. If you haven't used WordPress where you're actually being able to drag and drop things around, then you're using kind of an antiquated version of it, or a version that doesn't include like a page builder and things like that. So if you've used that version, you may be thinking, maybe I should use Wix or Squarespace. They've got these nice builders out there. And that's great. Honestly, if you're going to look at Squarespace, if you're going between the two, definitely pick Squarespace over Wix. Squarespace actually has a lot of functionality that's pretty outstanding, really, for what you're getting. But the thing about Squarespace, and just like Wix, is that you're in this walled garden. This idea that you can't take your ball and go home. If you want to, if you decide that you just decide, I want new functionality, I want a new aesthetic, I want to be able to do what I want to do, and I don't want to have to deal with any other company, there's no ability to do that. Everything you've built is on their servers, owned by their servers. Now, you own their website content, that's true, but as far as getting it out and putting it somewhere else, that's not possible. So think about that when you're trying to decide, what should I do when it comes to a CMS? WordPress offers about several 100,000 developers that have actually created plugins and apps and like other things. I'm using apps just because other people might understand that a little bit better than what a plugin is. But an app, or in this case, what really is called a plugin, allows for you to add functionality to your website that may not have been possible outside of it. Imagine that you have a very specific system that you use for your inventory management, and you want to actually interface with an e-commerce component. And you want to also have shipping rates that are brought to you by FedEx, and you want them to use your special shipping rate that you get with FedEx. You can do that really easily with WordPress with just a few different plugins without having to pay anyone to custom develop that. And custom development for something like that could cost $10,000 or $20,000 or more. In the same scenario with WordPress, maybe it's a couple, $1,000 or, something like that to optimize it, to set it up, to make sure you have all the correct options, and then to test it. Maybe it's $3,000 or $4,000. Just depends on the developer, of course. But if you're using Wix, none of that's possible at all. None of that's possible. You don't even have the ability. Squarespace, none of that's possible. It's not really something that they would do. Shopify, if you're thinking about that, that actually does have a lot of functionality around inventory management. Somewhat difficult to use. Magento, a little bit difficult to use. All those types of things. You just have less people because it's a proprietary system. Proprietary systems typically do have less people that are out there looking to help out. Think about it like this. If you've got a system that is open and is widely used, at this point it's about by 40% of websites, like WordPress is now used by 40% of websites. If you have that, and websites there's billions, then you just have an enormous number of people that are educated and knowledgeable about what your software is about. And so I would say just think about that. Meanwhile, if you have Wix, maybe there's 20 million websites, but that's really not that many. And you have one company that's the one that's driving all of the functionality and the features. Meanwhile, in the other place, you might have 300 million people driving the features and the knowledge. So just a thought. Now, that all being said, I am a WordPress developer, so maybe I have something to say about this that's beneficial to me. Think about that and understand it. I do. I probably do. But the other thing is, I've taken a lot of people off Wix, and it's super annoying and frustrating for them because I can't keep any of their design. I have to redesign everything. I can't easily get all of their design off, and it has to be recreated manually. Now, if you're on a WordPress host and you don't like how it's hosted, and you want to change from like a host like GoDaddy to another one, you can just do it. Like, you can just take your website and you can just move it. You don't owe WordPress anything. And if you work with the right web designer, if you work with the right web designer, you won't owe them either. This is stuff that should be able to be done by anyone. And honestly, it's not magic. It's just being nice and setting people up for the future. So think about that.